Good morning. I want to thank everybody for coming out this morning. I know this has been an issue that everyone's been receiving a lot of calls about and wanting to get some answers and some clarification on the rules and the law concerning video gaming. We met here almost 2 years ago, December the 1st, 2010, to discuss a new law that the state of North Carolina had just brought into being, which is North Carolina General Statute 14-306.4. That particular law, we started enforcement of that law the January after that December of 2010, after an educational process with the store, shop owners, and folks who were operating video gaming. After that point in time, the law became, or the enforcement of the law became just a little bit clouded as far as what was a legal video gaming device and what was not. Well, over the past 2 years, it has made its way through the appellate courts and up through the North Carolina Supreme Court, and we do have a ruling now. On 12/14/2012, the North Carolina Supreme Court issued the ruling to address the Hest Amendment, but actually on 11/30/2011, and let me kind of catch up here. The court case was 12/14/2012, and they actually found that the law that has been there for 2 years fully enforceable. And that's why we're meeting today, to discuss, answer any questions, do any clarification that may be needed. But what the plan is, after conferring with the district attorney and talking with Chief William Anderson with the Asheville Police Department, is we decided to have our press conference today to use the media to get the word out to all the store owners and video folks that are operating in Buncombe County that these machines are illegal, that we are going to enforce this law, and we will begin with a campaign of doing that on the 14th, which will be a week from this Monday. They are currently against the law right now. So if they're operating illegally, but we're stepping forward to take enforcement on the 14th, which will be a week from this Monday. I've had several calls to ask if we are going to send out letters or do any kind of notification with the stores, because we did that last time. We did that in 2010. But because there are so many businesses operating out there now, we have no idea where all those machines and all those businesses are. So we have asked the media to help us get that word out, and we will start the enforcement campaign in a week. At this time, I'm going to defer this to the district attorney, and he can talk about the particulars of the Supreme Court case and what that means to this general statute and our enforcement of it.
Briefly tracing the history, back in '06, video poker type machines were outlawed. Subsequent to that, some things happened with the law or with the machines. They were modified to be internet based, and so the General Assembly in '08 passed a law trying to outlaw those machines. Then they were modified again, and hence the original injunction, and they became the 2010 law that the sheriff referred to. And basically what that did, they took the electronic machines and paired a sweepstakes type game with some type of video display. What the '08 law had outlawed is when they moved from the standalone poker type machines to an internet type poker display. So at any rate, the North Carolina Supreme Court, when it got hold of this case, basically traced this history and referred back to a 1915 North Carolina case, which, could you put the relevant language up, Randy? This pretty much, I think, sets the stage for this saga, in fact anticipated the stage, and the court kind of refers to that later on, but basically no sooner than you outlaw one part of this, it's like whack-a-mole, it pops up again. And but the court pretty clearly in this opinion, it appears to me, has said that these type of games will not be condoned in this state. The issue revolves around games of chance, games of skill versus there is no skill. Here, the idea was that it's a predetermined sweepstakes. It doesn't matter what you do or say, you've either won or not won before you got the sweepstakes card or as you get it. And what the companies tried to do was pair that with some entertaining display that, whether it's simulated gambling or had some type of appealing display, paired them together. And then the argument that the companies used was that it was a free speech violation to tell them that they couldn't do that. And basically what the Supreme Court said is, we're not going to buy that. The state has the authority and has had the authority for eons to regulate gambling under the concept of looking out for the public morals or whatever. I mean, that's basically the language that's used in gambling cases through the years. And then they looked at the different types of scrutiny, that even if it were free speech, you have strict scrutiny or intermediate scrutiny. This is not a strict scrutiny. That's the type of thing where you actually are standing up talking about something, because none of this has to do with anything other than displays on a video machine. So, and the court also pointed out it didn't matter whether it was some simulated video game or if the machine just said bingo or you've got 21 or whatever. It's the same idea. It's prohibited to use that machine to tell you that you have won the sweepstakes game. The argument's also been used in some quarters. Well, McDonald's has sweepstakes from time to time. Well, McDonald's is not selling you a sweepstakes card. These folks are taking in hundreds, millions of dollars selling chances on the sweepstakes ostensibly, sometimes with a prepaid phone card or a internet time. And although in this case, in the North Carolina case, nobody really addressed that, they referred to another case out of another jurisdiction where out of $27,000 worth of time that had been sold, $100 had been claimed. So clearly it was just a subterfuge, and that's what our court basically referred to. So the bottom line is the machines that we've seen so far, now again, I'm sure there will be attempts to get around them, but pairing them with some internet-based system, because the difference in this is, too, you unplug the machine in the store, you could not plug it in here and play the game because it's a company out of state. They have a system. So, and it's not like the old poker machines, which you could unplug, bring them in here, and then examine them or look at them and see how they worked. The court has seemed to suggest that no matter how you phrase it, that we are not going to allow that. That's the bottom line, and that's what we believe. And as the sheriff said, I think that everybody probably in the state of North Carolina that has these machines has been following this saga for years. One, we don't know where you are if you're using these machines because there's no licensing for the most part. And secondly, there's probably nobody in the state that has these machines that has not been closely watching this. And certainly the folks who were leading up the lawsuit on behalf of these companies have been in contact with their people on a regular basis, whether it's telling them that the injunction was entered in Greensboro a few years ago or telling them that, and they have sent out some letters, I believe, telling them that what the court has done and they're going to continue looking at how they might be able to do it. But the bottom line is we're going to give everybody a fair opportunity to get them out on their own. We hope they will. If they don't, then we're going to seek to enforce the statute.
Captain Wood?
I don't have not a whole lot to add, just the fact that we're in agreement with the district attorney's office and the sheriff's department in beginning the enforcement on the 14th, and realizing that the public should be aware by that time that the games are, as the sheriff stated, currently illegal, and we will begin enforcement at that time.
There's some pretty broad sweeping language in the packet if you get Randy to send it to you, and I think our district attorney has some copies up here where the Supreme Court basically says at the end of their decision, we conclude that North Carolina General Statute 14-306.4 regulates conduct with only incidental burdens on associated speech and is therefore constitutional. And the reason why I read that, I don't think that any challenges coming. So if you're a store shop owner and you might be hearing that there's another injunction coming or another stay coming, I don't know that that's really going to be the case this time. I think the Supreme Court's ruled on it, and we've been given the go-ahead to take enforcement by our district attorney as well as our Sheriff's Association and their advisement, as well as our attorney service that we use as well. So at this point in time, I'm going to open it up for questions.
Just to clarify, if the machines have to be totally out of the facilities or if they are unplugged and unused, are they okay? Do they have to totally get rid of them?
When you go to the statute and you look at the statute, there are several machines that are prohibited on their face or by mere possession. I think a lot of the machines that we've seen to that are being used in our county are the old gambling standalone pot of gold machines, and the district attorney concurs. I think those by statute are illegal on their face, so just mere possession of those after the 14th can be charged. When you start coming to the internet-based games, that's a little bit more comprehensive in the way of an investigation to make sure that we have what we're looking at.
Are we talking felony charges, misdemeanor charges?
As I remember, I believe the first charge is a misdemeanor, and then it graduates from there into a felony charge. Either the second or third charge is a felony.
Second charge.
Second charge is a felony charge.
And then the third one's a more serious felony.
This campaign that you're going to begin on the 14th, is this going to be a complaint-driven thing, or do you have some places in mind that you know that have operated them in the past?
The places that we know that have been open for business, we will be taking a look at physically to make sure that they are not operating, and then we'll be driving it from a complaint basis.
And there are 300 or 400 law officers that probably stop and get a cup of coffee at different places every day that, you know, may just happen to see them.
How many do you believe are in operation in the county?
To be honest with you, I'd have no idea. We had a proliferation of them after, in 2011, after we had some unsuccessful attempts in trying to deal and prosecute the machines because the law was so vague. It was hard to do anything with any of the machines, even the ones that the courts told us that we could probably go ahead and enforce. It was hard to explain to juries what the difference in the machines were. They saw gambling as gambling.
And, you know, 10, 15 years ago, South Carolina did away with video poker. Those machines came into our state but had to have a stamp on them ostensibly, and so they were registered and you knew how many there were. This type of stuff with the internet, again, it's basically a laptop plugged into an internet connection, so there's no licensing, although the city for a while, I think, issued license to them when we were in that interim period when the injunction was in effect, and then when it went out. So they issued some license for some period of time, and Ms. Whitlock might have some idea of how many licenses they issued during that time frame. I'm not sure, but the system now is there's no telling. There would be no way to tell.
But what about businesses? Any idea how many businesses you believe are in operation?
Honestly, I haven't a clue. We've got a lot of convenience stores that were, you know, operating as they always have, but this was they saw it as a way to make some money, and at the time the laws around it were non-enforceable. So we have those to deal with, and then just in the area where I live, I probably saw a half dozen of standalone video poker gambling establishments come up that's all that's contained in the business.
Are there some machines designed that there's no cash transaction, it's just a game of fun, and can you tell the difference, and will those be, or is everything disallowed now?
Well, I'd say a pinball machine like we had when we grew up would still be fun. But you know, again, the whole idea is gambling. Okay, you get something of value. You know, I mean, that's the trick, and that's the problem here is, again, it's not a sweepstakes that says you won, you know, a chance to play again. Here's something you won $20, you won $500, you won $1,000. That's why people keep coming, is because of that.
I think, to use some of Hess' terminology, if it were just a game to play for the fun of it, that might not be a successful business model.
Have operators started unplugging machines in Buncombe, or have they been waiting to hear about your plans?
To my knowledge, there have been quite a few that have been removed already. I think the media has reported that several of the businesses that were using Hess technology, they went ahead and removed their machines, probably for fear of having those machines confiscated or losing those machines. I think a lot of other folks who are not doing business with those particular companies with internet sweepstakes have been waiting to see what our stance and our information was.
When you begin this campaign, will your deputies and officers be actually physically removing machines that they see if they are following up on a complaint or visiting?
Yes, sir.
Where are these things going to be stored if you find a couple?
That's a great question.
Well, we hope we don't have that problem, Bill. Drive around anywhere.
Are you going to have to like hang on to them until the court cases are resolved and all that?
Yes, yes.
I think, and we haven't got this far yet, you know, in the past because of some of the issues and appeals and injunctions, we've not destroyed any machines, to my knowledge, but I think now that situation's probably going to change, especially with the machines that are illegal on their face, the old pot of gold and Lucky 7 machines and that type of gambling device.
And again, I'm sure some of these people will be trying to modify it to get around the law, but you read this opinion, the court's pretty clear that the state has the authority to regulate this. It's not any type of protected speech. They can have all the video games they want. They can have all the sweepstakes they want. They just can't pay off on the sweepstakes and use the video games as a subterfuge for that.
I know y'all been touching on this, but Sheriff, I'd like to ask you, can you just explain in very layman's terms for folks that know really nothing about these machines, why are they dangerous?
I don't know if I would use the word dangerous. I would use the word they have the potential for a lot of corruption around them because they're not regulated, which when you look at that type of business, unregulated, you could probably see the opportunity for other unregulated things that break the law that could evolve into some type of danger. But one of the main calls that I get in my office and got on a regular basis up until we were unable to enforce this law a little over a year ago was that my family member is putting every dime that we make in these machines. And we know of several folks who have lost houses, lost vehicles, and basically just destroyed families over putting everything that they make in these video gaming devices.
And I would add to that, the Attorney General's office sent out a cautionary memo that I'll provide in the packet for you, where there are documented cases where folks have gone into these stores, run up quite a large sum on these sweepstakes, and then the businesses refuse to pay them and refuse to settle. And there is a fraud memo circulating from the Attorney General's office that I will put in the packet that goes out to you.
And we've actually had embezzlement cases over the last 20 years where some of the folks who were stealing from their employers said they did so because they were addicted to gambling. I mean, we've had mom and pop businesses, $70,000 from a church one time, you know. So again, the state is regulating this. The state is seeking to look out for you. You know, as part of the state has the ability to do that in certain situations. They regulate different types of conduct, and this is one that the court says they can regulate.
Do you have some concern that, and I remember when the South Carolina ban happened and some other circumstances too with border counties, are you concerned that as these things get flushed out, they'll end up in maybe some neighboring, more rural counties where maybe the law enforcement effort is not as intense or sizable?
I think that's very possible that it could go that route.
So you say the Sheriff's Association is on board with everything that's going on?
That is correct. I'm sure counties will respond as they have in the way of resources. But as far as the ability and the legality of being able to enforce it, I think it's pretty clear for all of us.
Do you fear these may go underground now?
I'm sure some of them probably will. Just like, you know, lots of illegal activities underground. People don't stand on the corner and say, here, I'm doing this illegal activity.
Sheriff, what do you say to those that worry that this enforcement may cost some people their jobs?
You know, economic times are extremely tough, and you know, this issue has been batted back and forth by the courts and by the legislature, and basically as a sheriff, I'm in the position of once the high court of the state has ruled, then we step forward and enforce. And I'm sure that they have weighed out the cost versus the gain of keeping these machines legal and how to deal with them in that perspective. So I trust the court and their decision.
Let me read a line from the court's of opinion. It's talking about states' attempts to regulate gambling. So state legislatures have weighed the social cost of gambling against the economic benefits and chosen different paths. And the other thing is, anybody who's gotten into the internet gambling cafe business in the last several years, you had to look at it as potentially a seasonal job, just like working someplace for Christmas, because you knew what was going on in the state. The legislature has tried in 06, 08, and 010 to do something about this. You know, it's been appealed to the courts, and now the court has ruled. So I don't think it was anything that anybody should have gone into a couple of years ago thinking, I'm going to make a career out of this, because there's going to be a continued attempt to do something about it. Anybody else?
Folks, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming, and please help us put the word out there. It's not our intent to surprise anybody with enforcement.